So this is the Tuesday, August 8th Planning Forum meeting, and it's one of our summer. I think it's the summer meeting. We did not have one in July. This will be the August, and then we will move back into our regular second Tuesday of the month. So Candace did send out the minutes. I believe it was yesterday, and if there are any need for corrections, please speak to that now. If not, we need a motion to accept.
Barbara, I have something that Thomas Scharf brought to my attention. When he announced the request for proposal that the city is advertising through the mayor's office, the minutes say that it refers to a plan for Vision 2025. Thomas said it should be 2050. So we'll have to make that change.
Okay. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you.
So if there's nothing else, we need a motion to approve the minutes.
Second motion.
Okay. Thank you, Cara. A second?
I can second.
Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. The minutes are accepted. So we'll now move to our presentation with Bruce and Allison.
Allison, will you start with the PEB report?
Sure. I'm going to report for both June and July. Joyce is going to share the screen, but I only have, I'm only showing a visual for July just to kind of keep it tight and not so crowded. So I'll just summarize June. The revenue collected by the Parking Enhancement District in June was $28,000 or $28,312.96. That is the Parking Enhancement District, of course, is the parking revenue collected from 6 p.m. to 3 a.m. Thursday through Sunday. And this is revenue that goes back into improvements for the area. July revenue collected was perhaps the most that we've ever collected in any month. And I believe that is due to having no construction and having all our meters available. I think Mr. Kraus will also speak to some of the other changes like in the parking areas that contributed to that. But July revenue total was $40,698.42. So we can really make a good effort at some improvements with that money. Expenditures in June were for the clean team for May. That was $15,879.98 to the Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership. And for clean team for June, $16,296.35. So far this year, we've collected $211,400.36. And since the inception of the Parking Enhancement District, $1,232,009.72. The trust fund balance is $192,750.99. That is revenue previous to this year. So we can, once this year ends, we will add that 211 collected in 2023, but it will be more by then. The liquor license changes this month were really just one, and that is for the distillery, I believe, at 59 South 2nd Street. It's transferring the license or applying to transfer the license from a business downtown to the distillery. And then a couple of surrenders to safekeeping. That is, they are required by the Liquor Control Board if they are not using the license for a period of time. That could be for many reasons. A rehab, they're updating things, or they just simply are not going to use the license anymore. So they are required to put that in what's called safekeeping. And so the Holiday Inn Express did that, as well as JFB at 1401 East Carson Street. if there are any questions on that.
Is 1401 Carson City Saloon?
I believe, yes,
Okay.
Hi, can you hear me? This is Rebecca
Yes.
Kasevich with Copies of Parking. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. I'm sorry, I'm out walking, so I apologize for the traffic in the background. But can you, Allison or Bruce, speak to the recent audit of the parking funds and the discrepancies that were found?
Bruce, do you want to do that, or you?
Go ahead, Allison. You're as knowledgeable as anyone.
I haven't looked at it recently, but it was really more
So-
about, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. We can share that freely. In fact, it already has been. It is public knowledge. There was nothing that triggered the audit per se. It's just part of the responsibilities of the controller. The audit was primarily focused on the parking authorities system by which they collect, manage, and ultimately distribute. It wasn't about how funds are ultimately spent. And forgive me, the audit was focused on a period of time. Allison, forgive me, it ended in 2022. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it was actually, it's interesting because I think it was during the pandemic that they were looking at.
It
So
ended
there
in
were-
2020.
Yeah, that's right. So we have there were different systems then. They have, I wish Gwen was here to speak to it because it really is, they had different systems for the parking collection up
Yeah,
until then.
Yeah, and Gwen either has or is about to leave the parking authority for a job, I believe, in Charleston. But if it would be helpful, in September, we could certainly have a rep from Parking Authority come in and speak to the audit, if that would be helpful. Be glad to do that.
I think that's
I
a good
would
idea.
appreciate that.
Bruce.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank
Bruce,
you
are
very
you-
much. I appreciate that.
Can you guys hear me? This
Yes.
is Matt Yen. This is
Oh,
Matt
hey,
Yendrowski.
Oh, there you are. Hi, Matt.
I'm actually filling in for Gwen. I'm actually the interim director for the time being. So yes, we did have different reporting styles in place. And the way the things the way the reports were being run back during the times of the audit. We have since corrected and moved forward with the reporting and corrected the ways that we were reporting since the audit.
Rebecca, is that helpful?
Yes, that is. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I
Thank
have
you,
to
Matt.
say, I have been getting emails every week from Matt for maybe 5 years, never heard his voice, just seen his face. So it's kind of, Gwen's always the person who reps. So it's really great to have you here, Matt. Thank you.
Thank
Before
you.
you move on, Allison, I just wanted to ask, the report identified an overpayment to the trust fund of almost $10,000. Are we on the hook, or will we be on the hook to pay that back out of our trust fund?
Matt, can you speak to that?
That I'm
Yeah,
not sure of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be more a Dave Honorado question.
You know what, I wonder if that is referring to, remember when we used to pay for parking enforcement. And I think that was
Oh,
don't you remember that, Councilman?
yes. And we had paid a substantive amount for
Mhm.
enforcement when no enforcement was being supplied.
Right.
And we went back for that money.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, we probably need to.
Yeah, they identified it as more of an accounting error because of these partial times that were being credited to the income side of the ledger. But it could be something else. But anyways, if someone can next month and explain it in more detail.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. It really, with the audit, as I sort of said it earlier, was really based on the parking authorities collection and accountment, that's a word, of the funds and not the ultimate expenditures of the funds by the parking enhancement district.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be great to have David come along. Be happy to make that happen. Matt, could you reinforce that for me, please? And I'll reach out to David as well.
Yes.
Thank you. Perfect.
Any more questions on that aspect, either the parking enhancement district or the liquor license changes? If not, I will go on to the clean team report.
One other, I just thought about it now. It looks like the liquor license, and I don't know if we mentioned this in July, but the liquor license application that had been at Dough Bar is down. And it looks like it is the space is up for rent. So we're assuming that just did not, whatever was going to happen is not happening with the space. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've heard anything.
I can't speak in any more depth than that, either, Barbara, other than David Glickman did post that the restaurant is up again. Michael Hudak has not reached out or spoken to me. I don't know if he did, Allison. I don't think he did, about why they chose not to ultimately come in and occupy the space. I don't want to be a downer here. I think spaces like that are going to be difficult in this economy, in this sort of reorganization of what food and beverage businesses look like. I think that's going to be a difficult space to fill. And that might be a bit of a challenge for them to come in and fill that kind of occupancy. Allison, I forget, 350 more? I forget, 500? I forget the occupancy on that.
Over 700.
Is it Michael?
Yes, that's what
Yeah.
it was. We asked them, we begged them as part of the restaurant plan to resubmit a new occupancy placard.
All right.
By over half. Because they agreed, the people that were renting it, that they would never have more than maybe 225 in their maximum capacity. So our concern as residents and in the community is that the wrong owners could buy it and utilize a large capacity there and really disrupt that block.
Well, I think you're seeing a trend here, with Carson City Saloon, with Sky Bar, with Foxtail, with Dough Bar. Those large assemblages, I think they're going to be very, very difficult in this sort of new food and beverage economy to fill. And that's something perhaps we should, take a deeper dive on. And really wrap our heads around what that could look like if they were to fill, and what that could look like if they were not to fill.
Okay, Allison, do you want to speak to the clean team services?
Yeah, sure. We had so Artie's back on the job, and he's a great person to have, but they did lose a good employee and are kind of transitioning to temporary employees through there until they can get somebody permanent. So you might see a little, it's not going to be maybe as consistent, but they're still doing really good work. I think there was some feedback last time about weed abatement, and they did make a good effort at that this month, or I'm sorry, in July. In June, they collected 8,500 pounds of trash. In July, 78, well, just under 8,000. An interesting note is the alcohol containers that were collected. This is 100 pounds of alcohol containers, which is about 4 big garbage bags full. We're talking not things sold at businesses on Carson Street, because it's not legal to walk out with those. And the types of things they're seeing are bigger containers of alcohol. And we're seeing that in the videos that come up of people that are just partying on the street. But it went down to 25 pounds in July. And this is primarily between 13th and 1500 blocks. what's interesting is that we had a big enforcement push during July in the last 3 weeks of enforcement of public intoxication and drinking in public, open container. So it's hard to say that that's why some of that is going down, or was there less, workforce, clean team workforce that's as acclimated to doing that as the other team was before, the more permanent team. But it's something to watch. Let's see. So yeah, if you just, there's a next page, there's some detail about how many graffiti tags, and this goes from really March till July. And if you want to look at a month to month, you can see the work that the clean team has done. Any questions on the clean team?
The only comment I guess I'd like to say is I think they do a terrific job, and I hear lots of kudos from lots of people. The one, not complaint, criticism, comment I get in, and I went and I talked to, I forget which member of the team before. The concern is that they always start at 10th and they work east. And they told me that, yeah, sometimes they only get to 19th, sometimes they get to 22nd, sometimes the Birmingham Bridge, but rarely do they go past.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if we could ask them to start at 18th and work east once a week, so they get all the way down to like 28th, because there's trash in certain areas beyond 24th that's been there for months. And I think that that's part of our district. And I don't think one day not in the other half would be not a bad ask to get the whole district looking nice at the same level. Is that something we could talk to them about to see?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
already have, Mike. And you and I are on the same page on that one. Artie was off for quite a while. He had the heart attack and so forth and so forth and so on. And so Artie's been back. Allison, would you say 90 days yet? Maybe just about.
Maybe not on the south side all that time.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Back in the south side, about, is it more like 60 days maybe?
Maybe 60, yeah.
Okay, but Artie's back, and I meet with Artie regularly. And I had taken a walk up to the Rite Aid to do some prescriptions and get some vaccines and blah, blah, blah. Long story short, I noticed exactly what you were saying, Mike. So I met with Artie, and this couldn't have been maybe a week ago now, to let him know that those meters, even though they might not have the kind of negative impact that we see in certain sections of the street, those meters are part of the parking enhancement district. And they pull money into the fund, and we have an obligation and a responsibility to provide the service up there as well. And it's not as often because it doesn't get beaten up as badly, but we do have an obligation. And so they recognize that and are committed to making certain that they service the entirety of the parking enhancement district. And as Allison was saying, he's been going through some personnel changes, and they're trying to get some people settled in here on a more of a full-time basis that Artie likes and approves of. So it does not go unnoticed, Mike, and I'm glad you brought it up.
I'll talk to the manager downtown, and also we can talk to Mike, who's more like the supervisor. So
Yeah.
there are two people we can
Mike
connect.
is who I usually communicate with. Him and I have talked multiple occasions.
Mike.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'll talk to James and kind of reinforce it from further up the top, so it comes down to.
Mike got promoted to a supervisor position, and so he's not on the south side regularly any longer. And if the PED continues to perform in the way that it is performing right now, I think it would be, can't think of the word I want, responsible of us to talk about perhaps even expanding staff out there. And then, Allison, am I allowed to jump in here now? Are you done?
Yeah, I'm
with-
done unless people have more
Okay.
questions. Yeah.
So Mike, I know you were, first of all, I want to thank you guys for going out and tending the trees. They look magnificent. I've always been kind of leery about putting that on the clean team because they have so much to do as it is. And I really, really appreciate the organization and the volunteer effort to get out there and weed and mulch the trees. And then it's gotten back to me several different ways of yours and other people's desire to have a way for us to water the tree pits. I think that's a wonderful idea. Bob and I have talked at length, just touching base with law to make sure that we're in keeping with legal expenditures of the funds. But the way we were able to purchase the gator for the clean team, there was a real process to that, and we had to follow it to the letter. We were advised not to have that held within the city of Pittsburgh ownership, in that we would assume all liabilities in terms of insurance or accidents, upkeep, maintenance, all those kinds of things. So the gator was actually purchased by the downtown partnership. It is owned by the partnership, and we supplied the funds through a grant from Highmark to actually pay for that. And the same thing would hold true for, if I understand correctly, would hold true for purchasing a unit that would be part of the toolbox of the clean team to water trees. So it would be purchased, if I understand correctly, by the partnership downtown. The funds would then be extracted from Parking Enhancement District. It would be owned by the downtown partnership. And we have not approached them about this yet. This is all philosophical. And then they would hold it, and that would be available to water trees that exist within the Parking Enhancement District. And only within the Parking Enhancement District. And then I believe, and Allison, jump in, correct me if I'm wrong, we would enter into some kind of a agreement, perhaps with Southside Community Council. If Mike, you wanted to take that then and go out and water trees. Kind of a long way of saying that.
I think there's still discussion to be had about that because of a lot of other things, but yeah, we got to talk to the partnership about it.
Yeah. It sounds reasonable. I think I'd like to have you just tweak that perspective. Instead of viewing it as a piece of equipment, it's no different than a shovel. It's an inert thing that has no moving parts. It's no different than a picker or a garbage can. I mean, those you don't rent and lease from whatever you buy in expense. So see if that can happen like that. I don't think there's a need to have downtown partnership if we can avoid. I understand the gator. It makes a lot of sense. It's a moving vehicle. It has to be licensed, maintained, and everything else. But this is no different than a garbage can, except it holds water. So there's no moving parts. It's that whole liability thing, Mike. And so we just want to make sure we dot our I's and cross our T's about it. And I do believe, and Bob, jump in anytime, even though I don't know you with that haircut. Jump in.
Yeah, you're doing well on your own.
Say that again. What?
You're doing well on your own.
Okay. Yeah. I want to dot our I's and cross our T's and just make sure that everything is copacetic about doing it. But I do think it's a wonderful idea. The city's invested a ton of money in 77 new trees, and everybody wants to see it look its best. So we're happy to do that. Jacky has her hand up.
Okay, Jacky?
You guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so just in regard to PED funds and tree maintenance and efforts to beautify East Carson Street, is there any plans for the city to engage with Western PA Conservancy or to provide any funds for the community council to engage with them to get seasonal baskets on the poles? It's a huge request right now from the community because the neighborhood looks like garbage. And we're trying to do whatever we can on East Carson Street to make it look like a livable neighborhood and not, what it is today.
Well, I'm just going to push back a little bit on the garbage thing. I mean, we work really, really, really hard to keep that avenue clean. And that's a full-time 24 hours, 365, 7 day a week thing. Can we, and please keep in mind, we've been under construction for the last 2 years. And before that, a year putting in light poles and signals and things.
Yeah. I'm not, when I say garbage, I don't mean like trash on the ground. I mean like, just look around. There's the buildings are in disarray. Like it's like, like don't look here at the actual pretty stuff. You know what I mean?
If you look outside of oh God help me, next door to oh my God, I'm melting down here. Bob, what's the restaurant you and Cassie go to all the time?
Fish.
I actually have no idea what you're talking about. I'm sorry.
Oh God, next to Benny Ferrero's. Why am I blanking?
Carmela's Plates and Pints.
Carmela's, okay. Yeah.
They took the initiative to hang some baskets on the poles and stuff. They strung some lights, which probably aren't copacetic, but it looks lovely. And
Right.
And I agree with you, Jacky, that has always been the hope of PED. Always to be able to add those, additional amenities that would really beautify the street. Construction kept us from doing a lot of that, and pandemic kept us from doing a lot of that because we took big, massive hits to PED funding. But, as Allison reported, this past July, we had the best month we have ever had. And so that has always been our hope and continues to be our hope. And even after I'm long gone, I will advocate for that to happen. That yes, we would like to see a partnership with the Conservancy, see baskets on the street, to see banners regularly, and have the baskets maintained on a regular seasonal basis. Absolutely.
So how do we go about doing that? Because in terms of banners, we're working as a community, as always, to get funding for things that we don't have money for in any other stream. So how do we get the basket thing kicked off? Who do we work with?
Yeah, that's just to sit down with the Parks Conservancy, I guess, or
okay,
and to ask how we can put together a coordinated effort to make something like that happen. And the downtown partnership would be huge help in that they do the seasonal plantings and all of their street pots and the baskets they do. They would understand how to craft that agreement, what it takes to do something like that, and what it ultimately costs. Because there's a cost to it, but regular maintenance beyond just the purchasing them that one time. But yes, we should look into getting bids for what that could look like. And that I think would come from the downtown partnership as a starting point.
So then as the community, we're going to go ahead then and start that conversation with them and then figure out, do some due diligence to figure out what we need to do to take next steps.
Yeah, I guess it's not all that complicated. We're on recess right now. As soon as I get back in September, and I think that's just a phone call to the partnership about what something like that looks like on their end, what it costs to do that, and then a sit down with Parks Conservancy, maybe invite them into planning forum at one time, or set up a separate meeting about beautification aspects of the parking enhancement district, and have it in place for spring. I think that's very reasonable.
Okay, great. I'll follow up on that. There's a bunch of people that are asking the questions, so I'll fill them in tomorrow night and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually have a call with Jeremy Waldrop at PDP on Friday. I could even just kind of broach the subject a little, if you're okay with that, Councilman.
Yeah. Bob, do you remember how many poles we replaced on Carson's? I can't remember, 140 or something?
It's a lot, yeah.
A lot.
And knowing how much those baskets cost, and they're they aren't the baskets you buy from Home Depot. They need to have insurance and all that. I think Lisa and I were talking, the installation of them is more than $1,000 a basket. So it would probably have to be something that's phased in. I can't imagine we can do it all at once.
Yeah,
Well,
maybe it's not all at once. Maybe we can do every other one, or maybe we can do a fundraiser, or maybe we can have combined funding come in, or maybe people can sponsor a basket and pay $1,000 out of their pocket. There's a bunch of ways to sort of carve the dollars. I just want to get the due diligence started to figure out how we get it done, basically.
Yeah, Bob, so when you say $1,000 a basket, is that the lifespan? Is that the basket installed and maintained for the season?
No, yeah, that's exactly. And I talked to Lisa about this a little bit the other day. She was saying that, or the city forester, she was saying that the installation, getting the basket, that's the large cost. And then replanting them and maintaining them in future years is not so bad. But to hang anything above your head, there's a large liability, and everything needs to be able to withstand, what could possibly happen there. So it's just, you can go to Home Depot and buy a $40 basket, but that's not what we can hang on East Carson Street. So
Yeah, you need to, like, do you ever play mailbox baseball? It's kind of like you need something that's going to be like it's, because it's kind of the same thing, right? Mailbox.
exactly.
Please, no ideas, Jackie, please. Yeah. We wrestle with liability as a fiduciary agents of the city all the time. It's the number one question that comes up when we, suggest anything. It's the liability that it brings to the city and how to reduce it to its absolute minimum. Yeah.
So I don't want to detract from that, but I do want to pile on a little bit and just say that Bob and I did talk with Lisa this past week about the street trees that are missing along Carson. And in hindsight, buying the trees and having them installed by the city instead of the contractor has put us in a bad situation, because we are missing about 53 trees right now along Carson, which is a large amount. And if it was done through the contractor, we'd have a warranty phase, which they would be replaced free of charge. They're not. And with Lisa's budget not having enough to support that, and no one else having the money, we do have a substantial, I'm going to say about 25% of our tree pits are empty right now, which plays a lot into the whole beautification and greening of the boulevard there.
I had no idea it was that dire.
Yeah, and she did not have a short-term answer at all for it, I felt. And when we've done these Tree Vitalize grants where we've applied for them, often we apply for 60, 50, 70 trees and we get 10, 15, maybe 20 on a good year. So I don't feel like this is where we should be going for that ask. I don't know where the money should come from, but maybe if Jessica's on here, I see maybe the state and the city combine to find funding to replace those as part of the end of the construction phase, because the majority of them are, I'm going to say half of them are in the construction zone and then half are just past. But it is definitely an issue. Because you walk by an empty tree pit, it's full of weeds, not anymore, but it was, and then it fills up with trash. And
Mike, are you
so hopping in here real quick, just to remind folks that there is currently an application being put in by the Southside Community Council for a $250,000 state grant for beautification along East Carson Street. That money has been sitting there for going on a year at this point. We're just waiting for the community council to finish that application. So I know Barbara's been working on it, and that should be coming along, but that money is out there and we are just, waiting for that process to get moving.
Yeah. Thank you, Jessica.
Hey, Bob or Mike, are you tying in the fact that you think we lost some of the trees due to the construction?
I know we did. I watched them remove them with equipment, drive over them, back stuff into them. I watch trees die all the time at the hands of the contractors.
Well, that's that's a horse of a different color. I think that's something that we need to speak to PennDOT about and see if there's some ability for restitution there. I had no idea truly that was going on, and we would be happy to reach out to PennDOT through the administration, see if we can get some juice that way, to say that part of the punch list of, you know this, Mike, you get a punch list at the end of our project. And one of it is to bring back trees that were damaged in the process of it. I think we should
Yeah,
start.
it's just time has passed, memories are fading, and it's hard to identify which ones were and which ones weren't. But the fact is, it's a big ask. You know, we have 53 tree pits that are empty, and I don't want to squabble with PennDOT about 10 if we're still going to leave us 40 short. You know, we might as well just go and find 40, all 53, instead of wait you know, if it's going to take a long time to negotiate that through the contract and everything.
So, yeah, I'm just trying to understand. So
Yeah.
it's not the majority that were lost during construction. Some were, but not the majority.
I will say at least a third. Let's just say that. At least a third of them were their responsibility damaged.
Yeah.
I can point to certain ones and instances that I saw.
And
But
did Lisa happen to assign a dollar value to a tree, approximate? Like
whenever
what
we
it
do a
costs?
street tree, she always says it's $1,500 ish.
Oh. Okay.
And that's,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
So I know that a new tree, though, when you go up to Eisler's, where we buy, the city buys our trees, they range from $225 to about $375. So the cost is small compared to that. So whether that $1,500 is paying for the labor, the insurance, you know, for full new replacement soil, the replacement of the old, removal of the old trunk, or ball, I don't know, but those are all things to consider.
I just had a call with Lisa the other day. I'll reach out to her specifically about this and see if there's some level of resource to get this started. I'm sorry, I really had no idea it was that dire.
Yeah, I provided, Bob has a list. I gave it to Lisa and Bob, and I can send it on to you as well. But yeah, I mean, it's playing a big part of what we see and how we feel and experience Carson Street. You know, shade is invaluable in weather like what we're having now.
So Mike, with the other 2/3 trees that have died, what do you attribute that to?
There was a fair amount of the new ones down by 17th. It's abuse because they're not being protected. There's no fencing or anything to protect them. So the soil was being trampled, and I think they were being leaned on or broken by youthful exuberance. As you move further up the district past the Birmingham Bridge, some of it was from girdling, which is when the metal cages that are the tree pit cages that you see, the cast iron ones, if they're not maintained and the opening is enlarged, it pinches the tree and it actually kills the tree. And that happened a fair amount along the South Side Works side. There's at least 8 of those along there that were girdled. And on the other side, I don't know, I think it was just lack of watering, some abuse. Some down around 17th and 19th were also lack of watering. You can tell they're just dried out. Matter of fact, one's right in front of the highway robbery. It's a dead tree standing. The leaves are completely burnt up right now. It's dead. And there's 4 others that are half dead, if not mostly dead, with its leaves just dried up from not being watered. So yeah, that's our growing. That's why the request for the tank came through, because I was driving 55-gallon drums down to Armstrong Park and to Ormsby Park to water the new trees that we had planted this past year or two. And you just can't, I can't do all of Carson. It's just too much.
I really appreciate you bringing this to our attention, Mike. I'll make certain this gets handled.
Yep. Well, let me know, because I will still make a tree vitalize application. But again, if we're if we're applying for a tree vitalize grant for Carson, that means our neighborhood grant is probably being ignored because they're going to take the Carson one over 5 trees here, 6 trees there, 2 trees there, and the backs on our side streets, right? Because they have to divvy it up by neighborhood. So it's a lose-lose if we go through that grant where we win along Carson, but we'll lose around in the residential. So I'd like to find another way so we can win and win when we get trees and baskets or whatever. So food for thought.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
I just want to close out by saying that, well, I did text James, the manager, and he is committed to covering those outlying areas that you spoke of by the clean team. So we've had response already.
Thank you.
Thanks, Allison. One last thing real fast. I know we're kind of dominating the conversation. I'll get out of here.
That's
Um,
okay.
There was an article today, WESA published around some efforts to hold landlords responsible for their tenants when it comes to commercial space, especially commercial space that is held in a liquor license. And so I've been working on trying to come into some level of agreement with Truck Development that their tenant oddballs has become a nuisance, and we're looking to them for their assistance to break that lease and shutter that business. Kind of had some success, not what I'd hoped to have, but the conversation is fluid. I think they realize the gravity of the situation. I just don't think they understand the real gravity of the situation, and that we still have 3 weeks of August left and probably 2 of September before things settle down, and we want to keep the peace. So there is that going on, and then there's also an eviction in the process to evict Hippie Town at 12th and Carson. It has taken longer than we had hoped it would take. We're working diligently with the property owner, property manager, the sheriff's office, and our police department. The operators keep filing motions to stay in that space. They were set to be evicted on the 28th of July. It is still in the courts. But just wanted to give you a little bit of a heads up. I wish I could give you more details. I don't want to get too in the weeds on it, since it is still an ongoing battle in the courts. But the courts appear to be in our favor, that they clearly are not in. They're clearly deceptive in their business practice as to what they said they were going to operate there and what they're actually operating. And so at least in that part of the street, there is some positive movement, not as quickly as I would like, but there is some positive movement. I think that's all I have.
Allison, anything else?
No, I'm good. Oh, well, let's see. Maybe we do when it, I just had a thought. What was it? I mean, the Southside Hospitality Partnership, the new bar association is really making strides. They have met yesterday. They meet bi-weekly, and they met with the Southside Entertainment Patrol yesterday, and we had a really nice conversation. The one thing that, the Southside Entertainment Patrol is the new dedicated unit that is just on Carson Street, Thursday through Sunday, 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. And they have been working in concert with the sheriffs and state police. My understanding is this weekend, the state police are still coming, but the sheriffs are not, or one or the other.
The other way.
Yeah, okay. So there was a kind of a bit of an outcry, and I think that you should all know about it, that, you still, like the councilman said, there's still a bit of stabilizing that needs to be done. Some great effort has been made in the last 3 weeks, and to just for the safety, there are only 5 officers right now in that entertainment unit. That's city officers. And for their safety, it's difficult for them to engage in citations at the level that they have been able to do with state police and county police, because they keep there's enough numbers to keep them safe to do those interactions. So, we were kicking around, and I think the community should know that they want to request that continue to September, or maybe it's every other weekend, but to, limp it along and get the area stabilized, so that when the cold weather comes and the street, the activity that's happening on the street, not inside the businesses, goes away, and get really prepared, the community with the businesses, to really, have a plan in place, start early, as we were touting this year, but didn't get quite a jump on it. So that is the request, and I suspect that the resident community would want that as well.
Mhm.
So point of just a clarification for my own information, is it that has the city made the request and been declined by the state police, or was the request not yet made?
I don't know. That's what some of the information that we were trying to find out. Of course, the cops on the street don't know that information. It's more administrative, and maybe it was a 1-month contract or something. We just don't know.
Yeah, Allison, I did
Take
look
it,
into that.
Bob.
I'm sorry, yeah, it was declined from the state, and I talked with the chief, and then I also talked with the county executive. The county is going to keep officers past Labor Day. The state is not able to do that as far as I know. So the state officers, it isn't on our end. It's that they are not able to sustain the levels of officers that we've asked for over the last couple of weeks. So we would like them. It's just a matter of getting them. There's a police shortage everywhere.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. That doesn't mean that I agree with it or are happy about it, but it's not the first time over the 16 years that I've been here that we've made requests for state police to be partners with us. And times they were able to, and other times they were not able to. The request, the different chiefs that I've worked with over the years, the request has to be made by the chief. I know in this instance, the chief has made that request. I suspect, although I am speculating, that state police do patrol a number of smaller townships, municipalities, boroughs, and that could be some of the reason why they are not able to give the kind of devotion to East Carson Street that they are. But just maybe when you and I get breakfast, maybe we'll kick that around and see if there's a different way to approach that.
Certainly, we can definitely do that. I know in my conversations with the state police, they have told me they'll do it as often as they can, but you are correct. There are a number of communities, a growing number of communities, where only the state police are patrolling or performing any kind of service. And so that does tend to stretch the force thin, and mean that sometimes when there's an area where it's not their jurisdiction, they do sometimes have to say no. But I will follow up and just see if we can perhaps establish a consistent expectation moving forward, with the understanding that it's not going to be every weekend that they can patrol outside their jurisdiction, but maybe we can have a better sense of what that can look like moving forward, expectation wise.
Yeah, and I can't resist not saying this, and then I promise I will stop. It really does go hand in hand with increasing police officers has to be balanced with reduction in disruptive clientele. That it cannot just continue, which is why I'm so really quite honestly shocked by Trek Development's steadfastness in not wanting to address what is clearly the most serious problem on the street right now. We cannot continue this kind of flood of disruptive clientele coming to the street and just expect that police are going to intervene again and again and again and again and again. They have to go hand in hand. That is a cooperative effort that has to live and coincide together. Anyway, thank you, Barbara. I apologize. I'm going to beg off. I'm in the reason I didn't turn my camera on. I am spending the day cleaning out my attic, and I am a filthy mess, which I don't want anybody to see me, and I'm gonna head back up and continue to clean out my attic if you're good with that.
We will have to be. And so, but what I wanted to do, if I could share my screen, which I know it's 2023 and we've been doing Zoom for 3 years. But since Matt is on the call, I just wanted to share RPP statistics that I get every month from Deb Myers. And so I'm not seeing anything on my screen.
Does Joyce have to share it for
Yeah,
you? I don't.
Well, I don't know whether she has to allow me to share, but
Already did, so anyone should be able to share their screen.
well,
You
it's
can
not
email it to me, and I can share it for you if you'd like.
okay. So we'll continue then with the meeting. And I'll attempt to do that. So, at that point, let's see, we have, I think we're looking at development activity meetings with the Southside Community Council, and that would be Jacky and Cara with the slopes. If there's any information to share. I know that with the Community Council, we have not had any development activity meetings.
That is correct. We will not have one in August. We had no one reach out to us. So we'll see if we have one in September. Thank you.
We
And-
also have not had any in the Southside Slopes.
Okay. Then I think we have organization reports. Cara, would you like to go first?
Sure. Let's see, Southside Slopes Neighborhood Association is getting rolling with planning Step Trek. It will be October 7th, 2023 this year, the first Saturday of October. So we're hoping for good weather. And yeah, the big news in the neighborhood is that speed humps are coming to Pius Street this week. So if you drive down Pius Street, beware.
Hey, Cara, may I jump in for just a second?
Yep.
Brian was a little concerned about being able to have the UPMC parking lot for Step Trek. The hospital actually won't close until well into November, so it will remain in UPMC's hands. I told him I would make certain to close that loop to make certain that the parking lot is available, but everything leads to reason that it will still be available for Step Trek.
Okay, thanks for the update.
Yep.
Yeah, next year it's going to be another issue.
Cara and Bruce, that was not our experience for Goat Fest. What we were told was that UPMC did not want to let us use the parking lot because they did not want to open themselves up to liability, which might stall the transaction.
Oh.
We were not given permission to use that lot for Goat Fest.
And who did you speak with, Kitty? Recall a name?
I would have to go back and look and
Okay.
find the email, but
Bob, you'll remind, we'll talk to Sean Logan and just see if you know, there's a, you know, if there is a hiccup in this, being that it's in the, you know, process of being sold, okay?
Yeah.
Cara, the 21st Street lot, no doubt will be available. I do not think phase 1 of the master plan will start before October 7th. And that holds 110 cars?
About 130.
130 cars. So, okay. Thanks.
So, Jacky, do you want to share, or are you ready to share some of the work that we've done with branding?
Yeah, but can I share my screen or? No.
You're more adept than I am, so try it.
Okay.
There she goes.
Can you see it?
Yep.
All right, let me go full screen here. Can you all hear me? Because I'm on laptop and I'm on phone.
Yes.
Okay, so I think we've talked to everyone on the call in the past about a branding project that we had implemented with the Southside Community Council sort of taking the lead on it. And it really came out of the current state of, East Carson Street, having the neighborhood get a distinctive brand that's something beyond Coors Light and petrol law, and really to start implementing that brand for the South Side on some of our existing elements like street poles with banners or logo decals on garbage cans or cigarette butt holder receptacles, whatever it may be, sort of those site elements that we have going along Carson Street. And so really the goals were to strengthen and promote the neighborhood identity in place, strengthen historic preservation within the East Carson Street corridor, meaning that we wanted people to recognize the buildings, the architecture, the beauty that's there, and know that this is a historic district. And we wanted to promote a new brand to help with economic development and bring feet in the street. So really having a rollout based off of this brand to go into other neighborhoods and other markets so we could start to draw people in. So there's some precedent branding applications. You've all driven past these, you know them well. And they're used not only in signage or on branding, but also within other collateral that the neighborhood produces. So where opportunities we have are, the existing poles that you saw earlier, waste and cigarette butt receptacles for decals of the logo, and then on a larger scale, getting some corridor signage, meaning at 11th and Carson to add to the existing bench that says South Side. And then at Sarah and East Carson, I think that got planted by Western PA Conservancy, but working there in order to get in that area, I should say, to get a welcome to South Side sign. We had a lot of implementation here in budget that was funded and not funded. And so I think, as you heard, we're looking for funding for sort of some of these things to take place. And we said, well, we need to develop the brand. So how do we do this? And by the way, I'm sort of going to ramble through this real quick for time purposes. So if you have questions at the end, let me know. So the community council agreed to put an RFP on the street, and that RFP went to, I think, 4 local branding and marketing firms located within the South Side. So it went to basically South Side business owners. We received those proposals back. We took a look at them. They went into a weighted scale, and evaluations were done on things like schedule, budget, portfolio, experience, things like that. We did engage with a firm called The Machine. It's a couple that both lives and works in the South Side doing branding and strategy, and they have a pretty nice portfolio in terms of destination branding as well. And we worked with them to set up a process of how we research this. So, a lot of people may think it's, arbitrary. Someone just designed a logo. But we didn't want to do that. We wanted to figure out what is the South Side about? What do people care about? And so, through the community stakeholders, we identified a group of folks for one-on-one interviews. So the Machine held a number of one-on-one interviews. I think there's 10 or 12. We also did an online survey of 4 questions, and we utilized the community council's MailChimp list, which is about 1,100 people strong, 1,100 emails strong. And we got 114 people that responded back, which is a pretty good ratio for us sending something out. And we actually have a resident whose husband's on the board, who's a data analyst. And she helped the machine comb through all the responses and data and do keyword analysis as well. And then we went through some design development process on the data and some iterations on the logo itself and the campaign, and got a bunch of community feedback through that process. And through that process, we developed a brand strategy. And one of the continuous threads within the brand strategy is walking and walkability. When you look at everything, all the responses and all the keywords and everything that people were passionate about in our neighborhood, the walkability really rose to the top. And so from that, we developed a campaign that's being worked on, and a slogan of "Come Walk with Us," and a logo that you see there in the center of the South Side that's multicolored. It actually has the color palette is a historic color palette. And really just to show that the walking on the South Side is a quirky and colorful experience, as we all know. So we wanted to reflect that as well. We're not trying to hide the grit and the quirkiness of our neighborhood, but we want to embrace it by doing this. And then we put together sort of a draft campaign that we can look at, playing off of that logo and the slogan, and really, what we can do outside of our own neighborhood to promote the South Side. And, one of my favorites is the "Forget the Chair" there on the right-hand side, which is a very South Side thing, right? Forget the chair, come walk with us. So we'll continue to work with the machine to develop the campaign strategy, the brand. Everyone is that we engaged is on board. And so we'll be moving forward with that with one or two little tweaks, and we can't wait to get it implemented. Thanks, Barb. I'll take any questions if anyone has any questions.
And I, again, would just like to thank Jacky for, putting the, or for, I think, thinking about the need for branding over the last 2 years or so, when, we're faced with the challenges that we have and the negative narrative that we're hearing in the news and throughout, I guess, Pittsburgh. And followed up with an RFP, looked at the proposals, and has been working with the machine and with others. And we're not done yet, but we are moving along. And hopefully that's something that the other community organizations and those on the South Side will embrace. We continue to have our own logos, but this would be for South Side. And again, if anyone has any questions for Jacky or accolades for Jacky, and please share.
Hi, this is Candace from the Chamber.
Mm-hmm.
And Jacky, thank you so much for your leadership on this, and for everybody who participated. It's important, it's important at a critical time for us. And I do appreciate all the work that was required to come up with this. It wasn't easy, and it's much appreciated. And I just wanted to express that. So thank you for you, Jacky, and everybody else who was involved in taking leadership with this initiative.
Thanks, Candace.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And Candace, thanks for participating also on behalf of the Chamber.
You're welcome. I was happy to do it.
Yeah. I also, as part of the Southside report, want to thank again Mike for organizing along with Tree Pittsburgh, the Tree Pit Saturday that we had a couple of weeks ago. We had a significant number of volunteers and did some good work, and the tree pits look really, really good. So I want to thank you for that.
Thanks, but also let's thank Tie Me Up and Noy for
Oh,
supplying
that's,
$15 gift cards to all the different all the volunteers that came out. That was I'm sure the extra push that we needed to get the volunteers we had. We had about 28 volunteers that came out that day. So that's
yeah,
takes-
and I think again, it was interesting. Because I have a tendency to lose gift cards, I went that day, that evening, and to have dinner. And it was interesting because Noy and Tie Me Up are so much a part of the community. And she realized that I was turning that in. And she said, she thanked me for the work that I had done that morning. And when I thanked her, she said, I just really want to be part of the community. So, that speaks volumes for them, because they support all of the community council work that we do, garden tour, home tour, things like this. And, but it was, she seemed to be very, very humble about taking credit for those gift certificates.
Yep, she's a great partner.
Mm-hmm.
Wish we had more. Wish we had more.
Yeah. Kitty and Jeff, would you like to talk about Goat Fest?
I think we are unmuted now.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this, again, it's an event that really draws attention to South Side, flats and slopes, and is such a positive experience for those on South that live on South Side, have businesses on South Side, but just throughout Pittsburgh and beyond.
So we had about 80 volunteers. That's how many we need to actually staff Goat Fest. And we think we had between 1,200 and 1,400 guests, given
Wow.
the way different people, read the crowd. The first 2.5 hours are dry and sunny and fabulous. And then we dealt with a couple rain showers. But we raised enough money to bring the goats back next year, which was one of our goals. And the other goal is to introduce people to Southside Park. So it was a successful event. And we thank all the very many generous people who contributed money and sponsorships and gift prizes and came. So
yeah, we also invested quite a bit of time in getting the parking lot ready for you, Cara, just in case you need it. You even painted some lines on it so that people would know where to park. So
that's it.
That's great community engagement. It takes a village.
I do want to say one thing. Patty Kern, who is a DOMI employee, she and her husband volunteered for Goat Fest. How about that?
Nice.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. And so let's see, Candace, would you like to share?
Yes, I'll tag something on to Goat Fest. Although I was back and forth to South Hills Country Club for our golf tournament on Monday, there were many, many people en route to the Goat Fest. They were walking, they were skating, they were bicycling, they were on bikes, they were in cars, they were in open trucks with a lot of people in the back, in the sunshine and in the rain alike. And it was pretty exciting to see everybody headed to Southside Park. And I was disappointed that I had to work and I couldn't be there, but I was there in spirit. And I just wanted to say that as a Slopes resident and a person who works in Southside, I was really proud to see this daytime family-friendly event that everybody was going to in the Southside. So thank you so much, Kitty and Jeff and everybody else. I know there's a lot of people in the volunteer team, but it was a very good feeling to see everybody headed to the park.
Anything else to share?
For me personally, yes, we had a golf tournament on July 31st. We had 94 golfers, which was the highest number of golfers we've had in the last 9 years that I've been at the chamber. We had 120 people for dinner, and we were very lucky. We had a beautiful weather day. It was in the 70s and sunny, blue sky, puffy clouds. We had a lot of people participate from all different directions. We had business owners. We had volunteers from businesses and residents. So the golfers included businesses, Southside Works, Trek Development, a lot of businesses that are on and around East Carson Street to raise funds to run the chamber. We're looking to see if we can open up an office again, but it's everything is expensive and we don't have any solid details on that. We're just looking into it. I just wanted to acknowledge and thank everybody who came to the golf tournament. We did have one really nice thing I'd like to share with you. Golden Triangle Construction usually has a golf foursome in our golf tournaments. They weren't available this year, so they sponsored a golf foursome of the firemen at the 18th and Mary Street firehouse. And we were very happy to have them there, and they were certainly very happy to be there. So that's about it for now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have someone new with us, and we're happy to have her, Dana, who from Brashear Association, and wanted to know if you just want to share your position at Brashear and some things that are happening at Brashear. You would have to unmute.
Okay.
There you go.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
I'm Dana with the Brashear Association. I'm located here at 730 East Warrington Avenue. I'm the case manager here.
And do you have anything that you'd like to share about what's happening at the association?
With the whole association, I know they're planning to add on to the building that they have on 320 Brownsville Road.
Mm-hmm.
Expanding that, remodeling the pantry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we welcome you here.
Well,
and
thank you.
Yeah, we're happy that you're here with us. Thomas, do you have anything to share with us from the city?
Nothing major at this point. I think that following up on what I was mentioning with the comprehensive plan, that's currently the applications for the RFP were submitted by different consultants, and so the leadership is going through that and staff going through that. And then other items, I think, yeah, just kind of we're tracking as there may be potential development activities meetings in the future, but yeah, still waiting for concrete details on some of those. And otherwise, yeah, I just want to also echo the accolades, the impressive work with the branding project and everyone's collective work here and supporting the South Side.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
May I ask a question of Thomas?
Yes.
Thomas, I know I pestered you a few months ago about the status of the master plan for Armstrong and Ormsby Park. Do you have an update on where that is right now?
Sure, I can share that. Yeah, there's still some details we're waiting to confirm. So I don't have kind of a full update, but what I can share is that the money was found. So there was I know there had been some back and forth with that with Office of Management and Budget. So now there's at this point we have a Marty Battistone is working to finalize kind of an updated version of the work order with the consultant, and it would be looking at having as of now likely to have like a planning component as the first phase, and then depending on the outcome of that plan process, then there is money if needed for a certain amount of design work that would lead to the would basically lay the groundwork for then subsequent actual like implementation. Depending on what, you know, how the planning process results, it could also be that instead of design, maybe there's some things that DPW doesn't actually need to have design work for that it can still go ahead and install. So kind of depending on the nature of how the plan works out, that would shape what comes next. But yeah, the good news is the money was found, and I know there was a lot of back and forth on that, and really appreciate people's patience. We were working try to get that resolved. So yeah, so I think now hopefully once the kind of the contracting piece is taken care of, then there'll be Marty and I will be reaching out to want to do some community engagement on that, and we'll be in touch too with the councilman's office on that as well.
Okay, could you explain this consultant and contractor? Is this a landscape architect? Or who are we?
They would have landscape architecture staff and planning related staff is what my current understanding of it.
Okay, so this is some landscape architect / planner that the city would choose for us.
Yes, yeah, that was already it was arranged in order to get it in within the timeline for budgeting process, and so Marty and I would be involved in helping shepherd the community engagement process along in tandem with the consultant team, and then they would also conduct some of the legwork as well. So so they have
Thank you for clarifying. So do you have any timeline right now about how when this will actually get underway?
That I can't give anything definitive at this point. I mean, I know we're certainly aiming to get it going this year in 2023, but I don't yet have like a month I could give yet, because I'm needing to see with Marty on the timeline with the work order and just getting that kind of contracting piece finalized.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Jessica?
So there's a couple of announcements from me. We have a shredding event that'll be save the date for it. This one's going to be the closest one to Southside that we are doing this year, and it's going to be in Arlington. It'll be on October 7th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. So just telling folks to save the date for that. That'll be our next shredding event. And then the other thing is we have sort of passed the state budget. And by that, I mean, we have passed about 98% of the state budget. The governor has signed the general appropriations bill, and that contains the bulk of the funding that we allocate as the state. There is about 1 to 1.5% of the funding that we allocated that requires what is called a code bill to actually put the money out for it to be spent. I always tell folks the general appropriations bill is like a list of ingredients, and the code bills are like the recipes. For the vast majority of programs that we fund, the recipes already exist because these are programs that we have had for ages and ages and ages. But we have, several new programs that don't have existing recipes or they don't exist in state code yet. So we'll have to pass the code bills for that. So unclear to me when we will be back to do that. We are currently scheduled to come back in September. We have been told we may be back sometime in August, but we are waiting on the state Senate to come back to do their part of things before we can. One of the things I'm hoping to get into the code bill is some of that public safety grant program that was specifically related toward liquor license saturated areas. That's also a bill that can pass completely separately on its own. It passed out of committee on its own, but it can be quicker to get something done when it goes through as part of a code bill package. So if I can get it through that way, I will. If not, I'll keep plugging away on it as its own separate piece of legislation, which, like I said, did make it through committee in the House. And so we're just potentially waiting on a floor vote on that one. So that's sort of the update from me, events wise and legislation wise. If folks have any questions, let me know. I know we're working on getting a meeting scheduled to talk about some of the things related to PennDOT in Southside. That the email was sent around about. I know Dan's working on scheduling that, and I will, like I said earlier, look into what sort of expectations we can set moving forward with presence of state police in Southside.
Any questions for Jess? So I had two things. Joyce can share the screen since Matt is on the call. Just wanted to share the RPP statistics that I get every month, and you can see, and I will certainly send this out to those that are on the call here, and you can see we have daytime enforcement and also nighttime enforcement here in July. And, plates are being read, but we're seeing few tickets, especially at nighttime. And I think that's always been a concern of the residents. We don't necessarily know if people who are parking are residents and have parking permits, but when you see zero, 211 for daytime and 0 tickets, and then at the bottom 308 and there are 0 tickets, sometimes we question that. If you scroll down, Joyce, this is June, and again, when we're looking at II and even all of them, we're not seeing a lot of tickets necessarily over the course of the month. Go to May, Joyce.
I'm surprised that I is getting so little reading when it's a pretty large area.
Yeah, very much so. And now KK is really, really large, and we're seeing, a lot of tickets read, but not necessarily, or plates read, but not a lot of tickets. But here in May, with II, at nighttime, there were 0 read, plates read, and go to April. Again, II seems to be like the stepchild here for some reason. Go to, I know you can't really spend a lot of time looking at this. If you go to March, we're talking backwards here. Again, taking just a cursory look, you can see what the stats are. Again, II has very few at nighttime, none at nighttime tickets. February, there were, this seemed to be a decent month, maybe for tickets. If you go, and then January, I think we didn't have any nighttime. So, we're better than we were, 6-7 months ago. But I know that there was a time when, I think maybe it was this January and then 2022 when there was no enforcement at night. There was some during the day. And certainly, Matt, I don't want to put you on the spot to talk about this, but maybe that can occur next month as to the staffing and how we're moving forward with residential permit parking. I don't know about any other residents here. I've noticed this year more than any other year that, I look out on Saturday night or Friday night and, some weeknights, and there isn't a lot of parking concerns. There are parking spaces. I think, after 12, they may fill up, but it was unusual because in years past, we understand that we have less parking concerns when the students are not here, but I seem to notice that last year it really didn't matter. And this year, as I said, I'm noticing that parking is available more often than it had been in previous years. So I don't know if anyone has anything to add to that, or want to ask a question to Matt, who then can come back next month to talk about questions that we might have.
Barbara, I can attest to some of the staffing issues because I was working with Gwen this year in meetings, and some of the staffing issues were based off of the events that were happening in the South Side, and we simply pulled the officers later at night from that area, and they went into other areas just because of and we also had our own staffing issues due to call-offs and in those remarks. But basically, with this goes in line with the PED as well, because we simply pulled them from the South Side just for safety reasons, and we weren't simply enforcing at night and on some of those months. That's why they would pick it up, and that's why there were so many plate reads, and they wouldn't go back to the area after dusk. They had a presence there, but they wouldn't. After a certain point, we were pulling them because of the issues and the problems that we were having on the South Side.
Yeah, and we hope that has changed. Joyce, you can go back to I guess it would be July. And again, II is I think that it goes from 21st Street all the way down to maybe 28th or 29th. And it's pretty residential, and it's away from the challenges that occur from 12th to 17th. And so seeing these statistics, it would be great if more time can be given to the II area and to Southside in general. And I do understand that staffing is an issue. We're hoping that it's safety, not so much anymore, but understand that can change on a dime. But so I don't know, again, I don't want to belabor send more time than we need to. This is a long meeting, but I did have one other comment or question, but go ahead, Mike.
I just wanted to say I live in II, and I've heard, this past year as things started ramping up, that people do feel like there is not enforcement, and this sort of verifies what a lot of people have been feeling down in our area. And I can tell you, if you count cars from 18th Street to 28th Street on Jane Street, it's about 250 cars. So 211 means that someone drove for the entire month of July once down Jane Street in my area. So that's very underwhelming to see, and explains the feeling that there are some cars that are just sitting there for longer periods of time that don't belong on our block. We know that. So I'd appreciate an increase of more of an equity in the enforcement. Thank you.
Yeah. And then I just wanted to ask again, I don't need any, just wanted to mention this. We're seeing a lot more homelessness on East Carson Street, and we've seen it in the past, but what and others can correct me if I'm wrong, in addition to people sitting in vacant storefronts, they're also bringing mattresses and, you know, other things that lead you to believe that they're there for, you know, a long period of time. And in the past, we were able to, Bruce may be able to address this. Signs were put up that said either there was something that needed to go up to indicate that this was not a space where anyone should be loitering. And I don't think it was no trespassing. I'm not sure what the verbiage was, but a question then goes to Candace as to whether or not, you know, they can be in touch with property owners, asking them to put signs in their windows that there is to be no either loitering, trespassing, whatever the verbiage is, because it's, you know, a number of residents have reached out, and I'm sure people have reached out to the chamber expressing concern about that. So I don't expect Candace to be able to respond to that. I don't know if Bruce has any response.
Bruce jumped off a while ago.
I know, I still see his name, so I figured he didn't go to the attic, but he
But
must.
I can speak to that, Barbara.
Okay.
What I've been doing is I've been calling the owners of businesses where people were taking up residence.
Mhm.
And for those that are empty that have signage for realtors or representatives, I've been calling them, sometimes sending pictures. And sometimes when people are not there and they just leave things like blankets or whatever, and we're cleaning up, because I have community service volunteers who clean up on Carson Street too. We throw the stuff away. So I think I think the chamber should do a campaign of signage. We can work with the other organizations to make sure we say the right thing. And I think we need to revisit this. We had some signs some years back, and I haven't really updated that initiative lately, but I've noticed it's more people are coming to the south side, taking up residence, particularly in empty storefronts that have an inset from the sidewalk.
Yeah.
And it's awful. So I try to talk to the people when I have time to find out what I can do to help, or they, you know, I want to find out if they're coherent and they're okay, because sometimes they're sleeping there and it's really hard to to figure out if they are okay or if they've passed out or whatever. So I do on an individual basis, I do different things. And so I'm working on it, and I'm glad you brought it to everybody's attention here, because I really think it's a problem. I mean, it's one thing to have flowered baskets, another thing to have these people taking up residence in our empty storefronts. And sometimes they're not even empty businesses, it's just the businesses that aren't open during the day.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for acknowledging that and working on it, and then reach out to us to see how it is that we can help.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Barbara, it's Allison. I wanted to just jump in on that a minute. I just coordinated a training with our Office of Community Health and Safety this morning with Squirrel Hill businesses who are experiencing some of the same things that you're talking about. It's happening and getting calls from other business districts for the same thing. So there really is an increase all over the city, it seems like. But they didn't talk about this morning, but I have been in other meetings where Laura Jagowski was present, and it's one thing if people leave things behind, but sometimes this is like all that they have, and there is some sort of protocol that the Office of Community Health and Safety and some of the other outreach people talk about, and I don't know what that all is, but they sometimes I think they hold the items that you can call and have them pick up. So maybe we can have you talk to the Office of Community Health and Safety as you approach a strategy.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. Okay. Anything else for tonight's meeting?
Hey, Barb, it's Tim Lewis. I just wanted to see if I could just make a couple announcements.
Yeah, we're glad you're here, Tim. I was wondering if that was you.
I'm alive.
Yes.
Hold on one second here. Hard to believe already, but our new freshman students will move in on next Wednesday, the 16th, for freshman orientation, which goes on throughout the entire week through Sunday. And then classes begin on Monday, August 21st. Many of you have heard me talk about, how we collect addresses with our little pop-up boxes. That technology, unfortunately, was no longer available. So we're rolling out a new system called Roll Call. And it actually started a week ago, asking students if they're returning for the semester and then reminding them to provide address information, emergency contact information, and things like that. So, of course, I'm hoping I still get a good response when it comes to off-campus addresses, because that's what I'm most concerned about. So crossing my fingers. The off-campus guide that I put together, that's actually going to the print shop tomorrow, but will be available on my website. And then I do send out a copy of that, a hard copy, one to each address where I have students living, not only on South Side, but I do that also in Oakland in the Uptown area. So things are about to get underway.
Okay.
Hey, Tim, Barbara, may I jump in, please?
Yes, please.
So I was walking last night and thinking to myself how damn quiet it has been the last couple of years. And I can't tell you the last time we took a call in the office about disruptive property or a student party. And so I want to recognize you. I want to recognize Barbara and your collective efforts over the years to help, I don't want to say to rein it in, to create a culture. You've created a culture by which there is a clear understanding that students live in a neighborhood and they're part of it, and that they have an obligation to be cooperative and contributing. And over the years, that is exactly what's happened. And it didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened with a concerted and concentrated effort between you, Barbara, Community Council, and I think you need and deserve some public recognition for what you have accomplished over the years. So thank you.
I appreciate that a great deal, Bruce. I hope you realize that. And Barbara and South Watch, obviously made a huge difference in that. Makes me nervous to say that right before we start school, because I'm always petrified the first couple weekends, of course.
Yeah.
But I also,
it was funny too. I was off yesterday and I felt bad because when I came in today, I have a new administrative assistant after 30 years. And a woman from the South Side called yesterday and actually said that she had student neighbors for an entire year last year and they were problems and some really stuff I didn't want to hear. And all I could think to myself was, I wonder why this woman didn't call the police or call Duquesne, because I could have put a stop to that so quickly. Because she's worried with students moving back. So I called her today and left a message for her. So hopefully she'll call me back tomorrow. But I was disappointed to hear that.
Tim, I know that lady, and she and her husband said, well, kids are going to be kids. And I said, bullshit. I said, what they're doing next door to you is horrible. And my friends that live down here have a 9 and 11-year-old that go to Phillips Elementary, and the things that happen at that house,
oh my,
disrespectful, and that's why I finally talked them into giving you a buzz. So
just I appreciate that very much, because like I said, if I would have known about that, I can usually put a stop to those things rather quickly.
Yeah, and I don't know whether, thank you, Jacky, for doing that. And again, after all these years, we do find it hard that people are not contacting either community council or they go directly to Tim at Commuter Affairs. But I don't know about anybody else who are residents, but you know, kids moving in and out, it's been pretty quiet, you know, June, July, you know, August. In the past, there have been parties because they haven't been in school. And so they have some free time, even if they're working. I don't see that on my street, and I haven't heard anybody else complaining. And Tim often says, you know, word of mouth, you know, helps people, you know, those that are seniors now, were juniors or even sophomores, you know, they're learning that, you know, Tim will get called, or the Office of Student Conduct will be contacted. So it, you know, it has gotten better, but there's also those pockets where there are, you know, there are not residents who necessarily, you know, are willing to either call the police because they think the police are doing more important things, or making contact with either council, or they may not even know about the council, but then calling the school. So, you know, I don't want to jinx anything because, you know, tomorrow, you know, this weekend and September could be bad, but I'm believing that it won't be.
I'm hoping.
Yep. Yeah. So, and we'll get out once, you know, we will put on our, you know, we'll hopefully put on our website that guide to living on the south side that all students receive. It's pretty comprehensive. And
Yeah, and as soon as I get the PDF, the newest one, I'll send you a copy of it.
okay, good. So is there anything else? Anyone have anything to share other than saying goodbye and have a good and rest of August, and hope Jessica gets the budget passed? If not, we're adjourned.
See you, everybody. Thank you.
Enjoy your week, Barbara.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.